Okay. So welcome yourself as everything and as nothing. A non-objective welcoming that has no subject and no object. A sort of not knowing, welcoming. That reveals your inner being, that reveals your true heart. The love that we are, the love that is. You can let go of everything. The impression of holding on, the impression of needing to do something, the impression of being somebody. It's not necessary. Notice that effortlessly, in this moment and every moment, which is this moment, is, one could say, made out of knowingness. In other words, effortlessly, we perceive. We're hearing these words. And sensing the body, whichever way it appears. Invite yourself to this complete dissolution in this knowingness, which is not an activity that you do. Rather, it is that which is. One could say that which I am. Notice how, before even hearing these words, you are. That awareness is in the presence as well as the absence of perception. Notice how via thinking and conceptualizing, you classify, categorize, label, make distinctions, which is not a problem, but simply noticing that the labeling, the conceptualizing follows your non-conceptual perception, your non-conceptual experience. That before the concept, I am. Not I as a concept, not I as an image, but the wordless I, the I of being, the I of presence, of transparency, the I that cannot be captured by thought or concepts. That before the recognition of a male body, a female body, a blue sky, or a bright red sunset, before that recognition, I am. And throughout this recognition, I am. And beyond this recognition, I am. Notice how this I, this aware presence, is not divided, is not divisible into my awareness, your awareness, his awareness. Is non-phenomenal. Seamless. And yet undeniable. Notice how awareness is its own validation, its own proof, points directly from itself to itself. Feel it, sense it. I points directly from itself to itself. Without recourse to any phenomena. Thus, I can say, I know I am. It is that very I, which I am, which knows it is and says I am. Not I am here, I am there. Not I am this or that, but just the purity, the clarity, the sufficiency of amness, of being. The peace of being resides at the heart of this understanding, the understanding of being, the understanding that being is non-phenomenal, seamless, borderless. That there is no other beingness outside of being. I know that I am, while in fact I do not know what I am. There is a completion in that, nothing missing. I choose to label a particular perception an oak tree and another perception a maple tree or a palm tree. Out of my creativity and my sense of play, while I know that I am the amness of all that is. I know everything as this or that via my own creation, via my own conceptualization. But I do know that I don't know what I am. And there is a sufficiency, a completeness in that, a peace in that. Now in the Garden of Eden, we play. I play, I consciousness, this one reality. I play the game of Namarupa, names and forms. I play the game of being various characters on the stage, children in the garden. I create the players, I create the set, and I create the play, and I play the play. How wondrous, how wonderful. While I know that I am not this or that I am the reality of all appearances. I am not an appearance. I am not something that can be known via the mind or via concepts. When I look up in the night sky, a billion of stars and galaxies, I'm perceiving my creation. I perceive it as I create it. In an instant, which is not an instant, the eternity of nowness, eternity of being, the eternity of my reality. I perceive it as I create it, and I label it. I give it names and distinctions. I may even call a certain perception the Milky Way. The Milky Way. Why not? But throughout my entire frolics in the garden, in my own garden, I do not truly mistake myself to be a mortal body mind. I get on the stage whenever I'd like to get on the stage and play the role that I'm choreographing moment by moment. But I know myself to be the choreographer of the stage, of the choreography, of the actors, and of the perception. Please check in your experience. Take a look and see that there is no other perceiver outside of the reality of being, the reality of consciousness. There's no other reality. And that this reality goes by no name, no form, and yet it goes by all names and all forms, without ever becoming anything, without ever being an object. So in your contemplation and in your inquiry, you become less and less and less this, less and less that. The layers just shed away, the identities, the images, the labels. So that the past and the future meet you in your true being as the formless self. Yes, at the body-mind level, there is this and that, taking care of the body, taking care of family, friends, relationships, work, etc. There is a playfulness to that aspect of our life. So this playfulness we bring in, we bring it in. We do not attribute reality outside of consciousness. Without denying the word body-mind, we recognize its essence. Is consciousness. So I welcome your questions, whatever you would like to explore, to share.
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Nathan.
I wanted to speak a little bit about this kind of aspect of the discrimination between awareness and its contents. But then, as a first step, and then the rejoining the contents in life, and this intimacy that we are talking between awareness and its contents. So it appears to be first discrimination, separation, and then the coming together. And you spoke quite a lot about the zero distance.
Yes.
To know awareness in its contents.
Yes.
And sometimes it creates a kind of, not a contradiction, but something extraordinary in it, that there is a discrimination and there is complete intimacy at the same time. And we know that awareness doesn't appear, but yet it is completely intimate with what appears.
Mm-hmm.
And what I feel is sometimes as if this awareness shines as the creation. I can say it's kind of intimacy of shining together. I wonder if this is absolutely extraordinary, and it can make quite a lot of movement, a lot of an understanding, and also a complete newness. And I was today with a gathering of the family in Hanukkah, and I felt that sometimes that I was kind of a bit separate from everybody else. And yet it was kind of something in me was inquiring, why this sense of separation? Why? And then all of a sudden there was kind of this light came out, and everything shined as myself, and there was kind of a liberation, and I started actually speaking and relating myself to everything that was around. And it was quite beautiful, and it was almost something unknown in a way, that's against kind of something rather reactive of many, many years, that is it too shy or too kind of tired of situation. And yet in this thing there was an outgoing of newness, outgoing of light, I would say, that everything was shining and I was shining with it. And I think this seemingly difference between the discrimination and yet the intimacy, the living with this together, not falling into identification, being completely intimate. I thought it was a significant understanding, maybe a glimpse, I don't know. But I was wondering if you can speak a bit more about these two stages, these two seemingly different yet not different at all, about the contents that appear and me that doesn't appear, yet the togetherness, the non-separation of these.
Right. So in our experience in this moment, whatever we we speak about our experience, is not our experience. Whatever we speak about our sensations, our feelings, our perceptions, is a narrative, or is some sort of after the fact representation or attempt at representing our experience. But our experience cannot be captured in any words, in any narrative, in any description, in any, because it's not limited to our interpretation or our commentary or our representation of it. Do you follow that?
Yes.
Yes. So when we speak about consciousness, awareness, and its content, we are speaking pedagogically. We're using tools, limited tools. All tools are limited. They serve a certain function. We're using tools to point in a certain direction and to put pieces of the puzzle together, so that at some moment we see in an instant, oh, it's a mountain. These colors, this blue and yellow and orange and brown and all these pieces, suddenly you perceive, even though there may still be quite a few pieces of the puzzle missing, you perceive the image that the puzzle is attempting to paint, to put together. So when we speak about consciousness and its content, it's in the similar fashion. We're using concepts, we're using some pointers, using some terminology, and we're inviting a certain meaning to these words, but the meaning of these words to be verified by our actual experience. It's not just putting like a recipe words together. No, but we have to verify the recipe by the cooking it. So we're writing the recipe and we're cooking it. We're saying, okay, add some salt, and so we're adding some salt. Okay, now put 2 cups of water. We put in 2 cups of water. So we're using pedagogical means to get some clarity about the actuality of our experience. So yes, when you take a look at your experience, before you classify your experience as thoughts, perceptions, sensations, memories, images, etc., there is the experience. There is the experience that precedes its classification, that precedes the way we interpret it. One moment. So we start pedagogically, we start with, I am an object, I am a body mind, I'm a person, I'm perceiving an inner world and an outer world. The inner world is the world of mind, thoughts, feelings, etc. And the outer world is the world of mountains, rivers, objects, governments, skies, galaxies, etc. So there is that separate path of the individual. And so, because the path of the individual is a path in which the perception is limited by our assumptions about being an individual, there is the invitation to separate. There's an invitation to separate the perceiver from that which is perceived. So we encourage the individual who believes he's an individual, we encourage the point of view of the individual to notice that there is that which is perceived and there is something which perceives. In other words, we invite the understanding that that which is perceived requires a perceiver, that which is perceived does not perceive itself. There is something that perceives, whatever that something is what we refer to as I, and eventually as consciousness. So that's the path from the path of the individual to the path of energy. So the path of energy, we have an understanding. The understanding is, yes, I am that which perceives. I am consciousness, and I am that which perceives. But there is still a distance. There is still an object, a realm of the perceived realm, and there is the perceiver realm. And I know myself to be the perceiver, but I still do not know the relationship between the perceiver and that which is perceived. And so the invitation is to contemplate the understanding about one reality. So the meditation is about reality. What is it that is real? Meaning that does not come and go, that is not dependent upon conditions, that is not dependent upon time and space, that is not dependent on situation, that is not dependent on feelings, on sensations, on perception. What is it in your experience that is not dependent? And so we come to the understanding that awareness is not dependent upon the world, body, mind. We use various metaphors. We use the metaphor of the mirror. The mirror reflects, or the screen reflects the image of all colors, but it doesn't take on any color. It reflects images of different sizes, but it doesn't take on any size. So there is that phase of the energy where we realize that, yes, I am consciousness, consciousness is real, and there is one reality. Once we understand that there is one reality, what remains within the path of the energy is to align the alignment of the body-mind with that understanding. So when you are with family, there is a history of gathering with family for Hanukkah and for other occasions. There are tendencies within the body-mind, there are feelings, sensations. We may get triggered. Some old memories may arise within the body, not just within the mind, but within the body. Certain past relationships with cousins, with uncles, with friends that have a history to them. The history inhabits our body-mind. It inhabits our body. It inhabits our cells. So when we are in those circumstances, in group meetings, in family especially, there's stuff that arises that echoes the past being I am the individual, the path of the individual arises. I am me and they are them. But it arises at the feeling level. But because we know that I am consciousness, I am awareness, and that there is one reality, then the journey is the journey of realignment, of cleaning the debris, of let's say releasing, letting go, not feeding the wrong beast. But it's not so much about seeking a particular experience, no, because we're no longer seeking experiences. We're no longer in the path of the individual. We are simply aligning and realigning our somatic realm with our understanding. So in this process, we become more and more harmonious, more and more easygoing, more and more of a flow. A lot of the past tendencies, they arise, but they're not maintained. They dissolve. Certain feelings may arise, but they're not maintained. They dissolve because we're no longer fueling. It's like the metaphor of the fan. When you unplug the fan, the blades of the fan they're still turning, but because the fan is no longer plugged in, there is no electrical power that is feeding the motor. And so in time, the blades of the fan start to turn slower and slower and slower, and eventually comes to a stop. That's when we are in the path of Shiva, of celebration, the rejoicing, the sharing, the savoring, the path of love and celebration. So we go journey again. It's a pedagogical language. Pedagogical language. You know, once you get the understanding, the language doesn't matter anymore. You see, it's like all the various tools that you've learned, you know, from your teacher, from your trainers. At some point, you know how to play the violin. You don't need to remember anymore to hold it, how to put your chin against it, how to hold the it's
Oh,
in the bow. Thank you. You're enjoying, you know, you're just so in terms of the zero distance is again another pedagogical way of speaking, because there is no distance in God's kingdom. There is no distance. Distance is an aspect of mind which is related to perception. But it's a concept of distance, which you know, to a certain extent has its usefulness in the world of human world. If I tell you New York City is 4,000 miles from here and San Diego is 100 miles, it means something to you. This is an understanding, you know. But outside of the usefulness of the concepts, when we're speaking about true nature, about reality, about truth, about love, about freedom, about joy, about happiness, about compassion, we are stepping out of the realm of concepts to the realm of the absolute, of reality. So when we speak about happiness, joy, freedom, we're speaking about aspects of God, as you know, attributes of consciousness. You see. So in the moment there is an understanding, the mind, all the mind activities that led you to the understanding are no longer, they fulfill their function. They're no longer relevant because the understanding, they were about the understanding. So then you're on the other side of the understanding, and you're revisiting the mind activities that led to the understanding. So that's what we are doing now. We're talking about the path of the individual, the path of energy, the path of Shiva, but it's from the other side of the understanding. So from the other side of the understanding, we sometimes make some formulation about the understanding. But it's important to understand the following, that the formulation are not about the understanding. The formulation are about the impact of the understanding upon the body-mind. They're not about the understanding, because there is no commentary that is possible about understanding. Because in understanding, there is no understander, there is just the understanding. But the understanding has an impact on the body, on the mind, on the world. So we can make formulations about the impact of the understanding, you see. So in the way we share the teaching, it changes over time. We use whatever language that works, Like the way the Buddha spoke a few thousand years ago, if you spoke like this right now, it wouldn't be appropriate. Well, I don't know. It's a new language, which keeps morphing, keeps changing. The understanding is the same. The reality, the truth is the same. But the expressions changes, the metaphors change, the way we interact changes, and the sharing changes. So we don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon. We don't mistake it for the moon. Being in family is fascinating. Actually, if you ever come to retreat with Francis here in Temecula, Francis retreat are made out of meditations and body awareness and question and answer like we do now, and also hanging out. There's a lot of hanging out with friends during the retreat. There are a few hours of hanging out. This is interacting, and because in interaction, it's fascinating stuff that can arise, images of like myself, feelings, memories, judgment, whatever. It's of course they're very, very sweet people who are of a certain caliber of understanding. And they share the same interest. So in the interactions, some aspects of at the feeling level, aspects of ignorance may also get dislodged. But that's true in life, wherever you are. As a truth lover, life is your is where you can learn about living the path living the truth, living the love, living.
Thank you, Magdi. It's really touching. Thank you.
Okay, Nathan, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Magdi, may I?
Yes. Hello, Walter.
Hi, Magdi.
Yes.
May I share a poem?
Oh, yes.
It make me think of, you speak of these things, and I think of a particular poem that I wrote that kind of speaks to that. So thank you. This is called Safe Harbor. It's time to shelve the books, having recognized that swimming requires entering the water. Life does not allow you to wade in, but drops you into the turbulent ocean with roiling waves and no land in sight. Having shed the weight of identity, you now find that you are naturally buoyant. Swimming in the ocean of existence is effortless. Others around you flounder and cry for help, refusing to let go of their burden, clutching objects as they choke and sputter. A desperate, drowning swimmer wraps their arms around your neck, their weight threatening to drag you under. The momentary panic you feel is seen from a safe harbor, and you realize that your feet could touch bottom all along. In this instant of recognition, you transform from buoy to lighthouse, a beacon guiding others from darkness and death to light and life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Walter. If I may add a line.
Yes.
Thank you. As I am grabbed by the panicky friend, we help each other by drowning together.
Mm. Beautiful.
Thank you for your beautiful poem.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Any questions? because it is in drowning into you that I recognize you as my very self, as the only self. Well, very lovely to be with you, Carol, Olga, Nathan, Walter, Noel, David, Holly, Zoe, Mina.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you, Mina. Marga, Esther, Maria,
Thank you, Magdi.
Maria, Frank, Grace, Samantha. Maybe it's somebody else, I don't know, but Samantha, Gisela. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Walter.
Thanks, everybody.